Hi, how are you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be looking at bolt action. I'm going to start a series of videos which is looking at bolt action and what it's about, how to construct a force, how to play some games. It's going to be pitched at people who are new to wargaming or new to bolt action. So if you're a bit of a hardy old vet, this video might not be for you, but you might still pick up some information about it. Now, if you think it's going to be useful, do like and subscribe to the channel. Helps me grow the channel. I'm sure you hear that loads from different YouTubers as well. And the comment section, if you've got any questions you want me to look at or answer during the videos, stick it in the comment section. I'll either answer it in the comment section or do it in another video or both, but we'll see. Okay, so bolt action. Bolt action, as you can see by the cover, is World War II war game. It also has a supplement for the Korean War just after World War II, and bolt action type of rifle, and the sort of size of the game it's based around is platoons and infantry platoons especially. There is a supplement, Tank War, which is about using tank platoons and fighting tanks against each other, but predominantly you won't see many tanks in bolt action games. Produced by Warlord Games, as well as, if it's on, Osprey Games. So Osprey books, I'm sure most wargamers are familiar with. They have beautiful artwork in them, and Warlord's been able to plunder the Osprey catalogue and take some brilliant art, and it's full of lovely pictures, both of the models and wee vignettes and scenarios as well. I'll come back and talk a bit more about the books in a wee bit. It was written by Alessio Calvatore and Rick Priestley. Rick Priestley has wrote some of my favourite rule sets ever, Warmaster and its derivatives, Black Powder Hail Caesar, I adore. And Alessio Calvatore adds a cutting edge and a clarity to rules writing as well. Now, the models. So we'll talk a bit about the models for Black Powder. We'll talk about Warlord's models. Obviously, other manufacturers of 28mm miniatures are available. So Warlord have a load of plastic infantry for pretty much all the major combatants. This year, 2021, there's going to be an Italian supplement coming out, and I believe there's going to be some plastic Italians coming out for that as well, which would only really leave China as one of the major nations that was involved in the war. So as you can see with the sprue, torsos, head options, and weapons. And actually, you can do a lot with these sprues, you know, even from command pieces like officers' swords, etc. Convert them up into snipers. I've converted Marines into medics. I've done quite a bit with the sprues. Now, this is a second generation sprue, and when I'm talking about second generation, the first generation of bolt action plastic sprues had separate weapons to separate arms. You get the sprues which are bodies, arms and heads, and you get a separate weapon sprue. I always found that too fiddly. I think the Soviets are still like that, but the second generation sprues, as you can see here, all the arms are holding weapons. It's easy enough to match those arms to the body as well and get a much better fit. So that's plastic sprues, and you'll get bases to put them on as well. And I've worked with quite a lot of the Warlord plastic infantry now. US paratroopers, Japanese, US Marine Corps, loads of Germans, Soviets as well. Now, more specialist units will come in squad boxes. So as you see here, there's 10 miniatures in this box, Chindits. There's loads of these. The few that I've used of late, like Merrill's Marauders, the Soviet NKVD squads, paratroopers, Chindits. There's like Luftwaffe squads. There's even some of the old units before they became plastic as well in metal, so add a bit of variety to your forces. So they'll come in there. And actually, I think a 10-man box of miniatures is a really nice kind of size to do. You know, get that done a few days, and they're very characterful models. Yeah, well, there's the Chindits. Now, it's worth pointing out as well, these got the heads attached. certainly there's a thing called the head swap system, where some of these fellas would have no heads on them, separate head sprues, so you can swap them around as well. And like, for example, with the Merrill Marauders, if you see my US Marine Corps one, I've got the Merrill Marauders, which are jungle infantry from Burma. I've given them some US Marine heads to give it like a look for different looking Marines, maybe Marine Scouts. So that's the metals. There are also some hybrid boxers. So for example, these are Japanese Marines, as it says there, metal and plastic. There's also like the German Pioneer box set, and what you've got there is a plastic sprues with some metal components to add to it. So this one here comes with a bag. Seeing their heads, you've got a couple of extra bodies to add to the plastic bits. Now, what glues to use for plastic models? On plastic to plastic, use plastic glue, polystyrene cement. For metal models or metal onto plastic, use super glue. Also for resin as well, needs a bit more work, that also uses super glue. The tanks you get are, I think it's made in conjunction with a company called Italiaria. I apologise if I've gotten the name wrong. And they make plastic tanks, so most of the major tanks for the war are done in plastics. More specialised units are done in resin. Now, I was a bit reticent about using resin at first. I'd heard horror stories about putting resin kits together and stuff. I think it was a Panzer III I got in the Stalingrad collector's set. That went together perfectly. So yeah, so just jump in there, clean it up a bit, give it a wash, super glue it together, undercoat it, away you go. So in terms of a force, what to expect, my next video will be about a bit more detail about how to construct a force. But you're looking at a reinforced platoon. So you look at HQ section, so one officer plus a couple of supporters. 3 squads is your platoon. Then you'll add in support weapons, maybe some mortars, machine guns, maybe an artillery gun, then perhaps a tank. Most force options will only have space for 0 to 1 tanks. Then you'll throw in some medics, some forward observers. You might throw in some extra squads. So that there, you're looking at about 40 to 50 miniatures, which is a good sized amount for a project. And those projects soon start adding up. If you've seen the channel, you've seen me, some of the bot action stuff I've done. But to date, I've got a 10 planning army, 1250. Some of my armies are above that, 1250 points. So to date, I've got Chindits, I've got US Marine Corps, Island Japanese, but with some stuff I can swap out for jungle fighting in Burma. US Winter for the Battle of the Bulge, US Airborne, Soviets, Berlin and Stalingrad, and Germans, I've got Stalingrad, Battle of the Bulge, and Defense of Berlin, last levy. So yeah, they soon start creeping up on you. And certainly when I've got some of this Japanese stuff done, and my Chindits done, I've got some work to do on my Soviets, then I really fancy doing a British Airborne Force as well. So the books. So there's 3 types of books. A rule book, what I'm calling army books, and campaign books. So the rule book, this is the small format book. It came in the Band of Brothers start sets. As you can see, it's really thick. Just to give you an idea in terms of size, this is the size of a normal Sprue book. That is the cut down version of the rules. All the rules are the same as what you've got in the big rule book, it's just the print and everything's condensed. So you've got the rules, but you've also got in here, you do have scenarios. You've also got basic unit profiles and points values. So for all the major combatants in here, so you can get this, and just a wee casual dive in, you can play the game. Most of the unit entries, soldiers are rated on inexperienced, regular or veteran. So you pay your points for veteran troops, and then there are some nation specific rules which add on that, but there's not really a different profile. A Japanese man is the same as a British man, is the same as a German man, just in terms of what they can do, and that reflects that in the rules. Whereas the nation rules and maybe the squad compositions change how they look and feel on the battlefield. So the doctrine's different rather than the individual people. So whilst I say it's stats, it's not really stats. its kind of points values and weapons options and sizes for squads. And the same with tanks. Tanks are graded on sort of their armor size up to medium, light, medium, all the way up to super heavy. And also the size of the gun that matters. So again, the tanks will tell you, for example, let's flip to our tank. They were T-34-76, costs inexperienced regular veteran crew. It's a medium tank, and it's got a turret-mounted medium anti-tank gun. So you'd look at the main rules to work out exactly what that looked like. So yeah, if you were just getting into bolt action rule book, and maybe you've already got some miniatures from somewhere else, or the miniatures in starter box, main rule book, they'll see you're right. Next up, which will probably happen, is you'll probably decide to collect a force, in which case armies of book. And again, this has got loads more profiles for the units or weapons, guns, tanks, etc. More stuff than it obviously is in the starter set. It's got a brief history of the war and how the army developed, which if you're well read like me, probably don't need that as much. If you're less well read on World War II, gives you a nice primer to get involved with. Then towards the end, you've got theatre options. So bolt action is based around a standard platoon, army list, which is your HQ, and 2 squads, and then you can basically add in one of everything else. Maybe there's a couple of extra squads. Hopefully I don't. Which is, that's there. That's the standard reinforced platoon. There you go. Set stuff you've got to take plus options. Whereas what the army books do is look at how the army actually fought in different theatres and gives you some optional ways or slightly different ways to build your force and look at it. So for example, there's Rommel's defeat, and you've got some special rules and a slightly different force composition, mainly limiting what stuff you can take based on what era of the war it is. And to give you an idea, we've got theatre selectors for the American book, North Africa 42 to 43, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different lists there. Western Europe 43 to 45, from Operation Husky, Operation Avalanche, Casino, Anzio, 44 Normandy, Operation Cobra, the breakout from Normandy, Market Garden and the Bulge, Bastogne. It's got the Follow the Third Reich 1945, Operation Grenade Army List, and the Rhineland Army List. And then it looks at the Pacific, and it's got Guadalcanal and Iwo Jima Army List as well. So this, if you were deciding which army you're going to collect and you want to expand your forces, this becomes pretty essential with the rulebook. Now the next ones are never going to be essential, but they're my favourite parts of the books. So campaign books. So what this will do is give you a potted history of the campaign in a bit more depth. It'll give you some different force selectors for that, and it'll also give you some special rules for maybe some unique units or some unique tanks that can be fought in the scenarios in this. Potted history goes along side by side with the scenarios and how to fight it. And it actually goes into a lot of detail and takes you to a few different places. I've got Operation Market Garden here. Recently finished reading the Stalingrad book. And to give you an idea, there's some scenarios about the Germans advancing to Stalingrad. So you've got like a river crossing to deal with there, which is something I'd never thought about with the whole Stalingrad campaign. Or once you get in amongst the city, there's a big fight for I can't pronounce the name, I do apologise, the hill that overlooks Stalingrad. So that changed hands a few times. So there's battles for that. And traditionally, when you think of Stalingrad, you think of city fighting, you think of the snow and the Russian envelopment around it. You don't think of all the other stuff around it. So it takes it there as well. Also within the book itself, you've got a load of sort of sidebars, top secret there, gives you a load of really interesting information there. So this one here is Joe Vandeleur, leader of the Irish Guards, the spearhead of 30 Corps, advancing up Hell's Highway. And it says there, a colourful officer, Vandeleur had lost a much treasured part of his battle group shortly before the operation. A van with a large loudspeaker system which broadcast music to encourage the troops. His favourite tune had been Praise the Lord and Pass the Ammunition, though the vehicle sadly missed by Joe, it wasn't missed by anyone else. And, Michael Caine in Horrocks' briefing is one of my favourite more scenes of anything during a Bridge Too Far movie. And obviously Michael Caine comes across as quite the character Vandeleur was, but I didn't know about that. That was pretty cool. So yeah, so you got different army lists. So to give you an idea, you know, for the British there, you've got British paratroop or Polish reinforced platoon, British air landing platoon, glider-borne platoon, and you've also got 30 core armoured units as well. So you've got quite a few different choices there, and these do tend to shake up force composition there. So the Irish Guards 30 core list there allows you to take 2 tanks. I don't know any off the top of my head other lists that allow you to take 2 tanks. Maybe you just haven't looked too much. The basic one only is 0 to 1 tanks, for example. And yeah, these come in pretty detailed, takes you through some really interesting ones. This one, I mean, pretty thick as well. This one, I knew nothing about the campaign in this. I had ideas and I obviously knew about Guadalcanal and Iwo Jima. This was a fantastic read about the Pacific War. So anyway, getting distracted there about the books. So yeah, so the campaign books, certainly not essential, you don't need to buy them, but I've really enjoyed them. They're the sort of books I'll go back to and dip into, like my Osprey books. So the game itself, you say you've got your forces, 40, 50 men aside, maybe 10 to 12 units. And the game plays nicely in an evening. We've played 12, 50-point games. That's kind of what we go to. And we've had a decent outcome in a couple of hours for the game. The game itself, what I like about it is it's got a dice pull activation system. So that so what happens is each side's got a series of dice, 1 dice per unit, different colours. So I'll pull it out. If it's my dice, I'll command one of my units. If it's one of my opponents, they'll do one of those. So you might get a run of your dice, a run of your opponents, how you think about that, how you take advantage of that on the battlefield. I get bored with very strict Igo-Yugo systems. So for example, Kings of War, I think is a great tournament system. It leaves me feeling dead because of that. I don't do anything during my opponent's turn. So this keeps me engaged, keeps me really thinking about it. I think with that, it might make a poorer solo play system because you haven't got that thinking, that trying to outfox your opponent, how you use your dice, how you use your units. But certainly that is a key component of the game and one that I really enjoy. It is a game, so some of the distances are a lot shorter than they would be in real life. The figure scale doesn't represent anything to do with the ground scale. So you go into the game ready for that it's not trying to be an exact recreation of World War II fighting. Then you appreciate it for the game it is. It's a good game. You know, if I had a wee irk, it's about, like, I think if I was designing something for World War II myself, I might look at more focus on fire teams. So each squad's like 2 fire teams and how they interplay and support each other, which would be how I would write a set of rules. But the advantage of bolt action is it's a massive war game. It's certainly got a lot of fans, which means I can meet a lot of people that's already invested in knowing the rules and their armies. Generally, I do both armies for tournaments. People come down, I'll teach them how to play. We'll play a couple of games, but they're not as invested, they don't know the rules because they haven't got the rules or they haven't built their own armies. Bolt action, I've played Martin, who's been in some other videos. His army, he knew the rules when he came to the table. That was quite a unique experience for me as somebody that kind of traditionally puts on games for more casual gaming friends. Hopefully I've got across, and you've seen in other videos, that I enjoy collecting World War II armies. Put them together. It's very easy to come together. It's almost like just falling into a new army. Watch a movie, I'm like, yep, I can do a platoon there. That's no trouble. So yeah, that's a quick overview on bolt action. Like I say, comment section, leave some questions for us, and I'll either cover them in other videos or just answer them straight away in the comment section. The next video I'm going to do, I'm going to focus on the miniatures rather than me speaking to camera, and that'll be I'll show off 2 of my armies, but talk about how it works in the rules with force composition. There'll be 2 different armies, and what I've done, history, how that's made the army. So you can start making your own forces and making your own decisions about what you want to put in that force. But anyway, I've had a great time talking about bolt action. Look forward to seeing your questions and chatting to you about bolt action. And I've got some other videos planned coming up. You have a great weekend, and I'll catch you again. Bye for now.